questions for Steve right now? Open forum. We can do this. Any questions for Steve at all? Or I have a question for Steve. Well, you first. You want to go first? You have a question? Oh, for small business, I can help small business here, Steve. You don't mind.
Let me tell you something. Although
before you start, I just want to tell you, my wife owns the cafe down below called Zeytoon Cafe, and I own the building. And it took me 15 months, and I'm a lawyer, to get through the planning committee. Rent, it's very expensive. I mean, I own the building, I didn't get rent. But it was very frustrating for me as a business owner and a property owner to wait so long to put a business in there. And as I drive down through Laguna, I notice a lot of empty small businesses with 4 leases, and businesses don't want to come in here rent because of all the bureaucratic administrative hassle you have to go through, Steve. So
let me answer it. And if you all want to keep eating, please go ahead. And go outside. It's fine. But I want to start by creating general and then get down to the more narrow specific. Okay. First of all, from a general perspective, one, everything starts in council, just like I said before. So the solution to the problem is not going to come from the city manager, and it's not going to come from staff. It must come from the city council. Okay? Second, we need to have people on the council who understand small businesses. And there are 3 dimensions that you had when you came to town, and when any business comes to town, that the city council basically does not understand. And that's time, money, and certainty. In Laguna Beach, it costs too much, it takes too long, you have no clue as to what you're going to get at the end. And as a result, it's a barrier to entry to town. That doesn't mean we should have standards and rules, but it does mean that we need to be able to have staff that can work with you coming to town and saying, this is a good idea, this isn't, this is what you need to do to get through. I want to give you an example. I had a client a number of years ago who...
If you talk a little louder.
Oh, I had a client a few years ago who was a medical doctor in Anaheim. And he does primarily now pharmaceutical studies. And he purchased an office building. And he wanted to do the pharmaceutical studies there, which required patients to have blood drawn and to keep people overnight. And he called me up because of my experience here in the city and said, what should we do? And I said, boy, we were doing that in Laguna Beach. It would take 3 years to get it through. So let me try to short circuit. I got a hold of somebody in the planning department, set up a time to go in for a meeting. I went in, the planner sat on the same side of the table as us, looked at the plan and said, this is exactly what Anaheim needs. 3 weeks later, we had an approval. And so it ultimately comes from the staff. That wasn't me. Hey! But the point is we need to have a council that works with the city manager and the staff and says, you need to be a gateway into the city, not a barrier into coming into the city. And I've heard staff and planning commissioners tell me that, it's easy now to come into town. Well, if it is, why am I getting stories like this? Perception is reality, and the perception is not only did you have a hard time, but the perception is that you're going to have a hard time. And if the perception is that you're going to have a hard time, people aren't even going to try to come in. So not only is it hard to get here, people are afraid to try. That is not the message we want to be sending out there. We want to vibrate. But one last thing, we also need to modify some of our rules. The downtown specific plan, for example, has to be modified. We've got to get rid of the parking requirements. And we've got to get rid of the CUP for every use. If you talk to any of the people, that helped write the downtown specific plan, which was about 30 years ago, they will tell you in theory that the purpose of the downtown specific plan is to prohibit certain uses and require CUPs for everything else. And I will tell you, we don't want every store to be a t-shirt shop. And so I will agree that certain purposes behind that are legitimate. But
how about a surf shop? Well, do you read between the lines?
As far as I'm concerned, what we cannot do is what some of my opponents during the debates have said. One of the opponents has said, well, we need another bookstore. We need this. We cannot operate a city as if it's a mall. We don't have the kind of incentives to provide to pick and choose. The marketplace is going to determine whether or not these businesses succeed. If there was a need for another bookstore in town, and it made financial sense, trust me, somebody would be there. We've got to learn to trust that the marketplace is going to determine not only what the use should be, but whether it's going to work. So I hope that answers your question. You have a question?
Yes. My name is Jerry Schmidt. Been a longtime friend of Leon and the family, and many of the people in here
We're
that
happy to see you here.
are part of the Laguna Beach culture. The question I have is, what do we have to do as a community here to enhance the culture that makes it more business friendly, to create an environment that doesn't have roadblocks for progress in the city? And I understand that Laguna Beach stands for a certain type of culture. I completely understand that, and that's part of the charm. But the question is, how do we prevent that from creating a stagnancy that I detect here in the city? Because I'm a new apartment complex owner. I have 2 units with 4 units each, 2 complexes. So what I'm looking for is some understanding to the ways and means to accomplish some of these things that I do.
Well, hopefully I've answered to some degree.
Some of it you
this,
did.
But I think part of the culture, maybe the major part, is we are an arts community. And if we are going to continue to call ourselves an arts community, then we have to do certain things. We have some very successful groups in town. I'm on the board of the Festival of Arts. We also have the Sawdust, the Art Fair, we have the Art Museum, we have the Laguna College of Art Design. It is critical that we have liaison between the city and these successful groups and work together in order to enhance the arts community. But we also need to be able to make it an affordable place for artists to live. And that's not going to happen by itself. Instead, it needs to happen through what's called a live-work program. The live-work program that the city has had in place up until now doesn't work. Nobody's using it. And part of the reason for that is nobody sits down with the artists. There was one artist here tonight. Is she still here?
Steve, you went down, please speak louder.
Yeah, we need to work better on the live arts side. So what we have to do is sit down with the artists, understand what their needs are, and be able to write our rules to accommodate their needs. We've always write our rules the way we want them to be and expect everybody to fit the rules. It's got to be the other way around. We have to write rules, yes, that protect the city, don't misunderstand. But we've got to write rules that are going to make it feasible for the people we want to be able to be here. For example, the live work rules as they exist now, there's a percentage that's used for living, a percentage that's used for producing art. Talk to any artist, that's not how they operate. If they're producing art that day, 100% is being used for art. And when they go to sleep at night, it's 100% residency. And what difference does it make to me? I want to be able to have that joint use. So my hope is that we can identify the essential elements of the cultural parts that you're talking about. And government can't be the answer to everything. We need input from the parts that we like and provide the incentives for them to be able to succeed. So I don't know if that's exactly what you want. We can talk more in detail after. But my approach is government is not the solution.